Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute paradox that is Håkon Rian mentioned Ulend. We're pulling this incredible narrative directly from his fascinating interview with Renee Swenson, and let me tell you, it is an unbelievably inspiring story. It's one of those tales that completely rewrites the rulebook on intellect, trauma, and honestly, the sheer triumph of the human spirit. Seriously, if you think you know how survival stories usually go, or what a high-achieving professional looks like, toss that out the window. Get ready to see what true resilience actually looks like. So, let's kick things off with a pretty striking question, one that totally challenges everything we assume about who's vulnerable to extreme psychological manipulation. Think about it. When we hear about dangerous sex, we almost always picture vulnerable, lost people searching for direction, right? But this interview confronts us with a massive contradiction. How on earth does someone with literal top-tier intelligence, and, get this, 40 years of navigating the unbelievably complex child welfare system, how does that person end up trapped inside a dangerous group? Hold on to that question, because it really is the engine driving this entire explainer. We're looking at a huge juxtaposition here in Håkon's life. On one hand, you've got a guy with immense level IQ. That puts him in the top 0.5% of the population. That's incredibly rare. And you pair that elite intellect with 4 decades of gritty, real-world experience in child welfare. We're talking about a lifetime spent evaluating human behavior and tricky family dynamics. But then, on the flip side, and this is absolutely crucial to understand, long before the events we're about to cover, he was already living an incredibly unconventional life. He was already a monk. He lived in strict celibacy, regularly walked barefoot through fresh snow, and actually established his very own monk order. It's this wild clash of a highly institutionalized analytical mind with a deeply ascetic spiritual lifestyle.
Part 1. Descent into Linbu, the 2020 nightmare.
Okay, so in 2020, Håkon finds himself trapped inside the notorious Swedish sect known as Linbu. Now, while he was subjected to unimaginable control and severe dehumanization, his genius and all that systemic knowledge, it didn't just vanish. Instead of giving up, he took incredibly brave, calculated action. While he was still trapped on the inside, facing all of that, he actually managed to alert the authorities. He did this before pulling off a meticulously planned, totally desperate escape back across the border to Norway. The absolute turning point here was this exact realization. It clashed completely with my ethics. Despite the intense brainwashing, despite the extreme control mechanisms the sect was using, his core values, which were likely forged through those 40 years of defending kids and families, they just couldn't be silenced. That fundamental clash of ethics was the ultimate catalyst. It was literally the spark that gave him the crystal clear clarity he needed to execute his escape. And once he was safely back in Norway, well, his fight definitely wasn't over. Since he had already alerted the authorities from the inside, Håkon now took the battle straight to the public. He became a whistleblower. He used his harrowing experience to actively expose the Linbu sect in the Swedish media, making absolutely sure that the dark, hidden reality of this dangerous group was dragged right out into the public light for everyone to see. Which brings us to part 2, unique paths to healing, the barefoot monk. So how do you even begin to heal a genius mind that's been subjected to such extremes? Well, for Håkon, recovery meant leaning heavily into the ascetic life he already had. This involved some mind-blowing physical and mental discipline, like literally walking barefoot among broken bottles without getting cut. I mean, wow. He also dove deep into dog therapy and music therapy as a way to gently reconnect with his emotions. He didn't have to invent a whole new framework for healing. He just utilized the profound existing spiritual practices of his own monk order to find his way back to the light. And finally, part 3, reforming child welfare. Because Håkon isn't just healing himself here, right? He is actively transmuting all of that trauma into systemic protection for other people. On one side of the coin, we have traditional child welfare systems that, let's be honest, often lack a holistic understanding of trauma. But on the other side, we have Håkon's new blueprint. He's taking his elite intelligence, his 4 decades of hard-won experience, and his intense personal resilience, and he's using all of it to architect a fundamentally better, far more empathetic institution that actually works for both parents and children. It's a real game changer. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought to mull over. Can the most unorthodox experiences actually hold the key to fixing our broken systems? Håkon's story powerfully, undeniably suggests that true reform requires the deep, hard-won insights of those who have survived the absolute fringes of human experience and who absolutely refused to be broken by it. Before we go, I want to extend a very profound and dedicated thank you to the incredibly important people who supported Hakan on this amazing journey. His children, Alexander, Isak, and Anna, to Loni Ree, to Neil Donald Walsh, his ex-wife Beate, and of course, his deeply loyal dog, Trollheads Nessie. Thank you so much for joining us to explore this truly remarkable story.